Jack, it's June 4th. It's 7:31 a.m. I'm sitting on the floor. I don't know why I started there like that explains anything. I'm sitting on the floor beside the couch, and there's the quilt that my mother made me halfway in my lap. It smells like rain and old coffee and Dennis. I should probably wash it. I don't know if I will. It feels strange to wash something just because someone sad had touched it. I don't want to punish the fabric for being kind. That's stupid, Jack. It's just a blanket. Dennis left about 20 minutes ago, or maybe 30. The clock on the wall says 7:31, but it said 7:31 when I first sat down, so either I've been sitting here for exactly no time at all, or the clock has decided to be dramatic in a way I do not currently have the patience for. He woke up before me, and I know that because when I opened my eyes I could hear him in the kitchen. He wasn't being loud, just the small sounds people make when they're trying not to become part of someone else's house. He made coffee, or he tried to at least. It was too strong and bitter enough for me to consider rude, but I drank some anyway because I didn't want to tell a broken man that his abilities in the kitchen were also broken. He looked awful, Jack. He looked hollowed out, like somebody had taken a spoon to the inside of him overnight and scraped until there was only enough left to stand upright. He apologized for staying, and I told him not to and that I really didn't mind, but he apologized anyway. He had 1 cup of coffee, sort of. Mostly he just held it, both hands around the mug like it was something alive he was trying not to drop, and then he said he had to go to the shop. And I told him he shouldn't work today, and he said he knew that. I told him nobody would even expect him to work today, and he said he knew that too. I thought it sounded like grief coming from his mouth, and I still think it does. He said if he stayed still for too long that he wouldn't know what he would do. He sounded embarrassed by it, as if stillness was a bad habit that he didn't like indulging in. And then he said work made sense. He said that things break and you try to fix them, and then either they run or they don't. And I smiled when he said it because it sounded like him, like grease and metal and ordinary logic. But now I keep thinking maybe that's a terrible way to talk about broken things. I don't know. I don't know what I'm allowed to think anymore, Jack. He left through the front door and stood on the porch for a second before going down the steps. I watched him from the window because apparently I'm the sort of woman who watches men leave now. His truck started on the first try, and I don't know why I noticed that, but I did. It sounded too healthy for the morning. And then he drove off too fast down the gravel driveway, and I thought, that poor man. I really did. I thought, he's going to bury himself in work because if he doesn't, he'll have to sit with the silence and the stillness of his wife being gone. And then I thought, no, never mind. No, I don't like the thought that came after. Anka is inside, but he waited until Dennis's truck was gone before he even attempted to come in. He didn't walk in or wander in with his usual royal little attitude like he was doing me a favor by crossing the threshold. He bolted inside. I opened the door because I saw him on the porch, and he came in so fast he nearly tripped over my foot. And then he ran straight to the couch. Straight there, and then he jumped onto the cushion where Dennis had slept, and he started digging his claws into the quilt. He wasn't kneading. No, it wasn't that sweet little cat thing they do when they look half asleep and pleased with themselves. He dug at the blanket like he was trying to bury a smell. And I said, well, that's rude. He's grieving, you know. And then I stood there in my robe scolding a cat on behalf of a married man whose wife was pulled from the river yesterday. So that's where I am as a person. Anka didn't care, though. He just shoved his face into the blanket and made that low growling sound again. The one he made from last night. Just the small engine of disgust starting up somewhere in his chest. He climbed under the couch and laid exactly where Dennis had slept. And then he looked at me once, very flat and unimpressed, and I wish it felt cute. Maybe it does a little. There was a mouse on the porch. I didn't notice it when Dennis left, or maybe it wasn't there yet. I don't like that. I don't like the idea of things arriving on my porch after a man leaves. But it was there when Anka came in. Small and gray and not really pretty. Placed right in front of the mat like a little offering again. I said thank you because I'm half worried about what would happen if I didn't show appreciation for the grotesque little gift. And I stood there in my doorway in my socks thanking a cat for a dead mouse. And the worst part is I think I meant it. He brought me something. That should count for something, shouldn't it? even if the something has tiny feet and stiff whiskers and eyes that look too much like little black sesame seeds. I had to go get a grocery bag from under the sink, and I scooped the mouse up without touching it with my bare hand, and then I apologized while I did it, which I'm also not proud of. I didn't throw it in the trash. That would have felt too cruel, and I put it under the cedar tree at the side of the cabin. I didn't bury it, I didn't have a shovel, and I wasn't about to go looking for one. But I tucked it under the roots where the rain doesn't hit as hard. I don't know, that was probably stupid, Jack, but it felt like the kindest bad option. I washed my hands after, twice. The water came out normal, and I feel like I need to say that now. The water came out normal. It was clear, with no smell. It didn't have any penny scent or river scent. It was just water. I'm not working today, Jack, and that feels important to say too, though, and I don't know why. It's my day off. And that sounds like a joke someone meaner than me would make. Like the whole town looked at me and said, "Here, Holly, have a day all to yourself. Sit with it and see what comes." I don't want to see what comes, Jack. I want to sleep for 14 hours and wake up before any of this started. No, that's not true. I want to wake up May 16th and find Jack before he goes into the woods. I want a lot of impossible things this morning. Mostly, I just want my couch to stop looking like a horrible confession that even a priest would judge me for. Jack, it's 10:38 a.m., and I am trying very hard not to call Dennis. That sounds pathetic, doesn't it? It feels pathetic. I keep walking past the phone like it's going to do something on its own. Like it's going to ring and save me from deciding whether I'm the sort of woman who calls a grieving man at 10 in the morning because she got frightened by a cat and a dead mouse and her own thoughts. No, I'm not calling him. I am saying that out loud because maybe if I say it enough, it will become a personality trait. I am not calling him. I'm not going to do it. There. Very strong of me, see? The pipes are making a knocking noise. It's not the sink running or hot water causing strange sounds in the walls, just the soft little knocking sound from somewhere in the kitchen wall. 3 taps and then quiet, and then nothing long enough for me to think I imagined it. It's probably just old plumbing. Everything in this cabin is old enough to complain, and the floors complain, and the windows complain, the pipes complain, and I complain. We are a very vocal little household. But there is something about this sound that I don't like, Jack. It's too polite. Like it's waiting for me to answer it. There. Do you hear that? Of course you hear it. You're a tape recorder. Your whole job is hearing things that I wish I could ignore. I checked under the sink, which was brave of me, because under-sink spaces always look like places something could live if it had poor posture and bad intentions. There's nothing leaking there. There isn't a puddle or an odd smell or a broken piece of metal that I don't know what to do with. It's just the pipes, Jack. Pipes that have apparently decided they're lonely and want to start a conversation. I made myself toast, but I burnt it. Not too bad, just enough that the edges went black and the kitchen smelt like the diner after someone forgets they're responsible for the bread. I scraped the burnt part into the sink, and then I immediately hated that I did that because the flakes stuck to the porcelain and looked like little dead bugs. So I cleaned the sink, and then I cleaned the counter, and then I cleaned the mug that Dennis had used, and then I wished I hadn't. Not because I wanted it dirty or anything, that sounds disgusting. But there was something about washing it that felt wrong, as if I was erasing proof that he had been there this morning. The house feels too awake today, Jack. Maybe that's the problem. Usually when I'm home on a day off, the cabin feels lazy. A little damp, maybe, but today it feels like it's listening. The couch has Dennis's shape in it, even with Anka trying to flatten it back into something harmless. The kitchen smells like coffee made badly, and the sink looks too clean, and the phone just keeps sitting there. And I know phones sit. That's what they do until they ring, but this one feels like it's waiting with me. I picked it up once just to hear the dial tone. That's all. I don't know why I did that. Maybe I wanted proof the line was alive. Maybe I wanted proof it wasn't. It hummed in my ear, a plain little sound, and for a second I thought I could hear something under it. One of those tiny sounds a person makes when they're trying not to cry and don't want you to know that they're on the other end. I hung up and I did not call him. I am not calling him. I am becoming extremely powerful in this one very small way. I am choosing to ignore it, Jack. I keep thinking about what Dennis said, That if he stayed still for too long that he wouldn't know what he would do? And this sounds sad. It does, I know it does. If Suzanne had said that, I would bring her soup and sit with her and tell her that she didn't have to do anything today. If Frederick said that, either of them, I would assume that he would need a cigarette and maybe a better personality, but I would still worry. If I said that, I don't know. Maybe I have said that in different words. Maybe that's what all these tapes are. It's just me trying not to stay still too long inside my own head. But when Dennis says it, everyone else's voices crawl in. Gordon at my car window and Anka on the couch, digging like the blanket offended him. The mouse on the porch with its little dead eyes, and the river bringing Lila back. No, not back. That is not what happened. Found. That is the word that people will use. They found her. As if she had misplaced herself. As if the river was kind enough to return something that wandered too far upstream. I hate that. I hate how people talk about dead women like they became objects as soon as the worst thing has happened to them. A body or a discovery, evidence and remains. That poor woman, something in the river. She had a name, you know. Lila. I don't even know if I'm saying it right when I say it alone. Isn't that awful? To be frightened for a woman and not be sure you know how her name felt in her own mouth. No, not now. I am not doing that now. I'm going to make more coffee. Coffee is a normal thing, Jack. People make coffee and people drink their coffee. People do not stand in their living rooms being bullied by plumbing and a cat. It's me, Jack. It's 2:07 p.m. The police came by. Sheriff Bell and Deputy Rusk, they just left. I don't know why I'm telling you their names like you can do anything with them, but the names feel important today. They came about Lila. Lila Stillman. I don't think I've said her full name out loud before. And that feels wrong too, doesn't it? To be tangled up in someone's life, even from the ugly side of it, and still be surprised by the weight of their last name. Stillman. It sounds like a sentence that someone forgot to finish. They were polite. They were polite in that careful way that people get when they know they're holding something sharp and they don't want you to notice until the edge is already against your skin. They said I wasn't in any trouble, and then I said people only say that when trouble has already chosen a seat at the dinner table. Neither of them laughed, which was fair because it wasn't really funny. They asked if they could come in, and I said yes, because what else do you say when the sheriff is standing on your porch? You say yes. You move a pile of laundry with your foot, and you apologize for the smell of burnt toast, and you suddenly become aware of every dirty cup in your sink as if the cups have agreed to testify against you. Anka stayed on the couch the whole time. He didn't run or hide. He just sort of watched them from the blanket. His ears were tucked half back, and his little face was as flat as ever. He didn't like them, I know he didn't. But he didn't hate them in the way that he hated Dennis being here, no. No, hate is maybe too big of a word for a cat. Maybe. I don't know. Deputy Rusk noticed him. Of course he did. Men like that notice everything and then decide which parts they want to say out loud just to see what you'll do with it. They asked about Dennis. They asked about his whereabouts, about his state of mind. That was the phrase they used. State of mind. Like a mind is a place with roads and borders and a little sign when you enter it that says, "Welcome, please drive carefully." I told them he left around 7, and I said that he went to the shop, and I told them that he said if he stayed still for too long he wouldn't know what he would do. I wish I hadn't told them that. Not because it wasn't true, but because it was true in a way that changed as soon as someone else heard it. In my mouth this morning it was grief, but in their notebooks, maybe it became something else. That's the trouble with talking. You hand someone a sentence warm and alive, and then they pin it down flat like a moth. They asked if Dennis had seemed upset, and I said yes. Of course he did. His wife is dead. And then they asked if he seemed afraid, and I said I didn't know. And then they asked if he seemed angry, and I said I don't think I know what his anger even looks like. And I hated that answer the second I gave it. It sounded like a woman admitting she had been standing too close to a fire and calling it weather. They asked if he had any cuts on him, or scrapes, or any marks that seemed odd, especially on his hands. And I said I hadn't seen any, and then I realized I had been looking at his hands. I had looked this morning while he was holding the mug, and I looked at his hands because Gordon put that sentence into my head, and it keeps walking around in there with muddy shoes. And I hate that I noticed it, Jack. The sheriff asked if Dennis had ever hurt me, and I said no. That was an easy answer. And then he asked if Dennis had ever frightened me, and that was not an easy answer. I said no, not exactly. And not exactly is a horrible little phrase. It lets fear live in the room, but makes it stand near the wall where everybody can pretend not to see it like a wallflower. And then they asked if Dennis had ever talked about Lila with me. And I told him what he said, that she wasn't much for company lately, and I said that he said that she had left. And I told them that I asked if she took her things, and he said some. Some. God, Jack, I still hate that word. Some is a toothbrush by the sink and a coat on a hook, and they asked about the mug at the shop. No, wait, that's not right. I brought it up. I don't know why I brought it up. The white mug with the faded blue flowers and the old lipstick stain on the rim and the dust on the handle. I said it out loud, and both of them got still in that almost invisible way people do when something matters. I wanted to unsay it, but you can't unsay something once the room had heard it. You can only sit there and watch it become part of the air that the sheriff and his deputy breathe in. They asked about May 30th. Jack, May 30th is important. I know it. I knew it before they said it. I think I knew it the first time the radio said whoever borrowed the 30th, please return it clean, and I think I knew it when I woke up with dirt under my nails and no mud on the floor. I knew it when everyone at the diner looked at me like I was the only one who hadn't agreed to pretend. But hearing the sheriff say it made the date feel like a person standing behind me breathing hot air down my neck. They asked where I was on May 30th, and I told them I don't remember. And when I said it, the whole room changed. Not loudly, there wasn't anybody gasping or accusing me of anything. Nobody said, "What do you mean you don't remember a whole day, Holly? Because normal people remember most days, Holly." They were too calm, and that was worse. And then Sheriff Bell said that they would ask carefully. And I don't know why that made me want to cry. Maybe because careful is not really the same as kind. They asked if I saw Dennis that day, and I said I didn't know. They asked if I was with him, and I said I don't know. They asked if he ever asked me to lie for him, and I said no. They asked if he ever asked me to say he was somewhere, and I said no. And then they told me about Lila. They said that she didn't leave voluntarily. Not in those words exactly at first. They walked around it. People do that with death. They put their hands out in front of them. They feel for the furniture like they're walking blind, so they don't walk into the worst part too fast. But that's what they meant. She didn't leave. Not in the way people said she left, at least. Not with a suitcase and anger and some of her things. Not with Dennis standing in the kitchen saying she wasn't much for company lately. They're investigating her death as a homicide, Jack. A word that sounds far too official to belong in my living room. They said there were signs of foul play. I asked them what signs, and they wouldn't tell me. Of course they wouldn't, and they probably shouldn't, and I hate them for that anyway. The sheriff said the river makes a mess, but not that kind. No, wait, that was Rusk, I think. It's blurring already, Jack, and that bothers me. It happened less than an hour ago, and already the conversation is starting to crumple around in my head like wet paper. Sheriff Bell said the river just returns what it can't keep. That was a terrible sentence. The river just returns what it can't keep. I wanted to ask how many things the river had kept, but I didn't. I'm learning some questions make more room than answers can fill. Before they left, Sheriff Bell gave me a card with the office number in tiny black letters on it. It had the office hours printed on it like Murder cares about business hours. He said to call if I remember anything about May 30th, but then Deputy Rusk said, or if May 30th remembers you. And I looked at him, and I must have looked at him so horribly because he actually looked sorry afterward. Or maybe I'm making that up. And then he asked me if I liked chocolate. He said, "Do you like chocolate, Holly?" And I said, "Well, I don't even know what I said, Jack." "Yeah?" I think I said yeah, but it came out like a question. And then he took a candy bar from his pocket and he set it on my table. It was dark chocolate. The deep red wrapper with the pretty script logo. The one with the toffee pieces. The one that I bought when I thought the worst thing happening to me was a headache and Gordon watching me for too long. I don't think I ever told anyone about that candy bar. I know I didn't tell Deputy Rusk. Maybe everybody just likes dark chocolate with toffee pieces. Maybe the general store only carries one kind now. Maybe he just keeps candy in his pocket because he's odd and people are allowed to be odd without it meaning something more. I am trying very hard to be generous with reality, Jack. But reality is not returning the favor. The card is still on the table with the candy bar beside it. And Anka is still on the couch. He keeps looking from me to the table and then to the card and to the candy bar and then back to me as if I'm supposed to understand something, but I do not understand. I notice everything and I understand nothing, Jack. I said that yesterday, or maybe the day before, but it's still true. Hi, Jack. It's me. It's 6:03 p.m. now. I ate dinner sort of early tonight. It was just toast, not burnt this time, and a bowl of tomato soup. I did not eat the candy bar. It's still on the table, Jack. The soup tasted like warm pennies because I was thinking about pennies, not because it actually tasted like pennies. I'm clarifying that for myself, Jack. The soup was normal. The water used was normal and the spoon was normal, and I'm saying normal too much, which is how you can tell I've lost track of it. I didn't call Dennis, and he hasn't called me, and that feels like a kindness and a punishment all at once. I keep picking up the phone and putting it back down. I'm not dialing it, Jack, I'm just holding it. The receiver has weight to it. I like that about older phones. You know when you're holding one. It's not like those plastic things that people carry around now in the cities, the ones that look like toys and make everybody seem reachable at all times as if that were actually possible. A proper phone has a body. You pick it up and the house knows, and you put it down and the house knows that too. I thought about calling Suzanne, but then I thought about trying to explain the sheriff showing up and Anka and the mouse and the sink, and I put the phone down. I thought about calling the sheriff's office, but then I imagined Deputy Rusk answering and saying something like, "Has the day started speaking back to you yet?" And it pissed me off and I put the phone down even harder. I thought about calling Dennis, and I held the receiver for so long that my hand started sweating against the plastic. And then Anka made that sound, not loud, just enough for me to hear it, like he was reminding me he still had teeth and he wanted to use them. So I put the phone down again. He's a good cat, Jack. A strange cat, but good. Probably the only sensible man in Cedar Bend. That's unfair. He isn't a man. That's why he's sensible. I keep thinking about Lila. Not as Dennis's wife. I mean, yeah, sure, as Dennis's wife. That's how I knew her first. That's how everyone knew her, probably attached to him by language, if nothing else. Just Dennis's wife, or the mechanic's wife, or poor Lila, that poor woman, something from the river, something in the bag. I hate that. She had a name before she had a husband. She had hair that wouldn't stay pinned, apparently. And she had a mug with blue flowers and a lipstick stain. And she had ankles. God, no, I'm sorry. I keep thinking about my dream with the purple dress and the black lace, going down to the river and the hand coming up and pulling the cloth under, and the feet that weren't mine, Jack, the dragging and the screaming, and the dream where I was running, trying to get to the clearing first. I was trying to get there first, Jack, and that word bothers me. First? Before what? Before who? Was she trying to get there? What was she running from? Was she running from him? No. No, I don't know that. I do not know that. I need to be careful with what I let myself know, and that sounds strange, but I mean it, Jack. There are things a person can know before they have proof, and those are the things that ruin you in public. You start answering questions that nobody asked, and you start looking at men's hands and thanking cats for dead mice, and then you start wondering if grief can sit on your couch and leave stains. Anka still hasn't left the couch. Every now and then he digs his claws into the blanket again, and I know the quilt is ruined. Little pulls everywhere, and I should be mad, but I'm not. I don't think I wanted to use it again anyways. Hold on. Jack? Do you hear that? You're a tape recorder. You don't get to decide what not to hear. Anka's looking at the kitchen. The sink just turned on. I know that sounds stupid. I know pipes do things, but it turned on like a hand turned it on, Jack. I'm not touching it. I'm not even in the kitchen. Anka's making that sound again, that mean, low sound. I'm standing up. I don't want to. I am. The water is running. The handle is turned. I can see it. I can see that the handle is turned. It smells... God, Jack, it smells like pennies. No, 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 no. I am not going closer. I'm not. That's the pipes. It's just old pipes. It's just old pipes, Jack. That is air in the line of old pipes. That is the house settling. That is the rain that's built up underground. And... Jack, I can see something coming up from the drain. No, 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 I can't. No, no, I can't. I can't. It's just dark. Drains are dark. The kitchen is dark. That's what they are. I'm turning around. Holes are allowed to be dark. I am turning off my living room light. I am turning it off right now. Oh, God. I'm going to walk into the kitchen now, and I'm going to turn off the water. I'm not going to look. Jack, it's me, and it's 10:34 p.m. I'm going to sleep now. Or I'm going to go try to sleep. The doors are locked, and the windows are locked, and the porch light is on. I checked everything twice, and then I checked it all again because twice didn't feel like a real number anymore. Anka is still inside. He's still on the couch. Of course he is. And the sink is off. I don't want to talk about that anymore, actually. I put a chair in front of the kitchen doorway. And that feels stupid now that I'm saying it out loud. It's just a chair. It isn't going to stop water or something dark poking its way up from the drain. But I put it there anyway, Jack. And the sheriff's card is on the table. The candy bar is beside it. I haven't ate it yet. I don't think I'm going to. I keep looking at the wrapper, though. That deep red color looks darker at night. Almost brown, almost black. Maybe I'll throw it away in the morning, or maybe I won't. I keep thinking about what Sheriff Bell said. The river just returns what it can't keep. I keep thinking about what Rusk said. To call if May 30th remembers me. I think it's starting to remember me. I keep thinking about what Dennis said before he fell asleep. And that's what I'm afraid of. All of them sound like different people talking around the same closed door. I don't know who killed Lila, Jack. And I'm saying that because part of me keeps trying to decide, and I don't think I'm allowed to yet. I don't think I'm allowed to decide anything yet. I don't know who killed her. I don't know where I was on May 30th. I don't know why the sheriff looked so unsurprised when I told him that. I don't know why Anka hates the smell that Dennis had left behind. I don't know why the sink turned on, and I don't know if I really saw something. I don't know why the candy bar is here, and I don't know if not knowing these things makes me feel innocent or stupid. Maybe both. Maybe neither. Maybe I'm just being too hard on myself, or maybe I'm not being hard enough. I'm so tired, Jack. I'm tired in places I don't think sleep can reach anymore. If Dennis calls, I am not answering. I am saying that to you because I don't trust myself to remember it alone. If there is a knock at my door, I am not answering that either. Not tonight. Not even if it is somebody I know. Not even if I am desperate to see that person, especially not if it's somebody I know and not if I am desperate. Good night, Jack.